Listen to this podcast and you will learn 4 new phrasal verbs which are absolutely perfect for resumes and for interviews. My name is Ronan. This is Little Seal English. What is happening, folks? As you know, just like I said, we're going to learn those phrasal verbs today. Check out my website, littlesealenglish.com. Otherwise, sit back, relax, grab a beer, grab a water, and let's learn some English. And the first phrasal verb that we shall be looking at is to pop up. Pop up. And if you're waiting for something to pop up, you're waiting for something to show itself. You're waiting for something to become available and for you to notice it. So if you're looking for a job, you might wait and you might be watching the websites, like the classifieds, trying to see what jobs pop up. If you are looking for an apartment, you might check Facebook Marketplace every single day and looking, hoping something that is affordable will pop up on Marketplace. I don't know about you, but where I live, if you're looking for a job, you can go to a couple of different websites. They often have these recruiter websites, ones where you can upload a resume and people can take a look. Or they do it vice versa, where like LinkedIn, jobs might be posted. And if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook and you're going through your feed, you're just scrolling, and then suddenly you see a job or you see something, that is when you can say, oh, this just popped up on my feed. This is really, really cool. Oh, I wasn't really looking for a job, but this one just popped up one day in my emails. I actually get emails from LinkedIn. Not every day, but every 2 days or something like that, just alerting me to different jobs with certain keywords. So I could say, well, that one just popped up in my emails. I took a look at it, and it turns out I match quite well with the job description, so I'm going to apply, for instance. So when you're looking for a job, you're kind of hoping something might just pop up. However, sometimes they don't pop up, and if they don't, you have to go out there and get it yourself. You have to approach them. You go to the website and you scroll down to the bottom of the website and you look for the tag careers. And sometimes they have postings, sometimes they don't, sometimes they say send us a resume. So that's in the case where it does not just pop up. When it pops up, it's great. But how reliable is it, or how often does something good pop up? I feel with all the emails I get from LinkedIn, nothing really beneficial has come from it yet. Maybe I need to revise it myself. So pop up is a phrasal verb we use when it just suddenly appears. Like a job offer or a job interview suddenly appears. A position appears. In those examples, I also used pop up for the rental market. And if you move to a new city, you're going to be keeping an eye on the rental market like a hawk. You're going to be watching it every single day, hoping, as I said earlier, something affordable pops up. Hoping something affordable comes on the market. I have spoken to landlords over the last couple of years, and they always tell me whenever they post something on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace, it is gone in minutes, or they will just have an influx of messages because so many people around Kelowna, for instance, in this case, are online every day hoping something will pop up, hoping something they can afford pops up. And then they have to try and be the first ones in because the demand is so high and the supply is so low. Is that a problem where you live? Like, have you moved in the last 24 months? And when you moved, how hard was it to find a place to live? How hard was it when you moved to a new country or a new city? Was it to find a job? I mentioned pop up as in like it'll be on your feed. On social media, it can just pop up, an ad can pop up. I mentioned how if you're on LinkedIn, you might get those emails and, oh yeah, a job popped up there recently. I might take a look at it. It's a university job in Vancouver, for instance. So many different ways to use pop up in those cases there for interviews or resumes, or interviews in those examples. But now let's imagine that you do secure a job. Once you do that, the first thing you're going to have to do is to do up your resume. Every job is different, and every job wants different skills, talents, and experiences. And you need to do up your resume for each individual job. Yeah, you might have a general resume that's always ready to go. But then you're targeting a certain company, you're targeting a certain industry, and you're going to have to do up your resume because it's going to have to be different. If I am applying for a job that's not in the field of education, that's going to require a lot of work to do up because all my resumes are designed for the education field, for academia, or for education in private schools or public schools or something along those lines. Now, if I apply for a job that's not in education, I'm going to have to spend a long time doing up my resume. In fact, I might even need to jazz up my resume if I'm applying for jobs that are not in education. So do up is to make quick fixes, make little changes to your resume. You might update your resume. I'm doing up my resume for this company here. I think this is what they want, and so I can add it to my resume. Now, to do up is not just used for resumes. If you have someone visiting, you might want to do up the house before they come. I think that's always a good motivator for getting shit done. If someone's coming to visit you, you really want to get everything done before they visit. And maybe parents or someone who owns a house, homeowners, they've been wanting to do up the kitchen for quite a while. They've been wanting to do up the spare bedroom for quite a while, but they never got motivated. And then the in-laws are coming to visit. Well, now they're motivated, and now they're rushing to do it up. So what would it mean in that case if you're trying to do up a spare bedroom? Well, you try to make it into a bedroom. You get a nice bed, you get a bedside table, maybe hang a picture on the wall, make sure the curtains are actually good, make sure all the electricity and stuff in the room works or whatever it might be. That is to do up a room. So I did up the house, I did up a room in the house. We're currently doing up the kitchen. We're currently adding improvements to the kitchen. Maybe we're getting it retiled. Maybe we're getting a new oven and a new fridge. We're doing it up, we are improving it. And you can do up your resume, you can do up a kitchen, you can do up anything at all. And it just means to add little improvements to it. In the resume example, when you're doing it up, you might tailor it specifically for a certain job. Now, when I was talking about doing up your resume, I mentioned how if I were to apply for a job not in the field of education, I might need to jazz up my resume. To jazz up. J-A-Z-Z. And jazzing up your resume is when you make it more lively, interesting, or just a little bit, white lies, I'll call them. Won't call it a complete lie, because that's not jazzing it up, that's just lying. But it's a white lie. And when you jazz up your resume, you kind of make it sound like you did more than you did. You kind of make it sound a little bit better than what it really, really was. And you might be trying to draw connections between one thing and another that are just a little bit weak, but you're jazzing it up to make it look better than it really is. So if I'm applying for a different job, I might need to jazz up my resume. I could, for instance, write in it how I have barista experience. Barista. I was a barista once for about a couple of months, 4 or 5 months. Does it mean I'm going to take away barista experience? No way. Because when I mention that, I could also elaborate and say that, well, I was in charge of opening the store and closing the store. I was a key holder of the store. I worked the tills. I balanced the tills every night or something. I'm kind of jazzing it up. I'm making it sound better than it is. I mean, sure, I did most of those things. Doesn't necessarily mean I was good at them, but they don't need to know that. So first you do up your resume, and that's when you create it or you add on to it. You could fix up your resume as well. Fix up is another one. And then to jazz up is to make it more of whatever it may be. More interesting, more lively, more exciting. Jazz the movie up a bit. Let's make it more exciting if you're a director, I guess. So once you do, touch up is another one there. Touch up. So that would be very similar to do up or to fix up. If you need to touch up your resume, if there's a lot of typos in your resume, you have to touch it up. I'm going to be reading essays very, very soon from my students. And I might get back to them and say, you need to touch it up a bit. There's some silly mistakes there, a comma where it shouldn't be or something. When you're doing your resume, you do it up, you touch it up, you jazz it up, you fix it up. All of those are just to work on your resume. So if you're applying for a new job, make sure you do those. And then once all that happens, I guess you try to set up an interview. To set up. To set up an interview is to make an appointment with a company to have an interview. So I want to set up some interviews for next week, for next month. Oh, I'm currently open to setting up some interviews, so I'd like to. Or maybe you talk to them and you're like, hey, I'd like to set up an interview, please. Or, hi, I'm calling to set up an interview for Mr. Scott. That could be another one if they call you. Hello, is this Ronan? Yes, I'm calling to set up an interview for you, for whatever company it may be. And that's just when you arrange a time. I would tell my friends, yeah, I set up an interview for next week, so I'm very excited for it. So set up is to just like establish an interview. All right, that was pretty good. It was pretty quick, short and sweet, folks. So the first phrasal verb was to pop up. And you're looking online and you're hoping something pops up. Hoping an opportunity pops up, a job will pop up. Don't stop looking. You have to check every single day because you never know when a job will just pop up. We use pop up for rentals as well in the rental market. Everyone's hoping something affordable pops up. Once you find a job, you have to do up your resume, add changes. You have to jazz it up maybe, make it a little better than it is. You need to touch it up. You need to fix it up. And once you do all that, you set up your interviews. How many interviews do you have set up for next week? Oh, I've set up quite a few. You could also set up any type of appointment. Set up a rental viewing. That's a common one. When you move to a town or a city, you have to set up a viewing. I remember when we moved to Toronto, it was a nightmare trying to set up viewings because the city is so big. And then trying to get from A to B without a car as new immigrants in a city was pretty tough. So we had to set up interviews for jobs, and then we had to set up interviews to view places that we could move into or live in. Stressful times, do not miss those, that's a fact. But yeah, folks, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed this very short podcast, focus on phrasal verbs connected to resumes and interviews, I guess. And there'll be many more in the future along this line. Bye for now. And that, ladies and gentlemen and people and humans and dogs and cats, is that. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you found this very short episode useful. If you have any questions, you can contact me on Telegram or you can just hit me up on email, ronan@littlesealenglish.com. Very easy to remember. Also, if you want and you're feeling generous, you can totally buy me a coffee. Go to patreon.com/littlesealenglish. It's in the description. I would absolutely love a coffee. It would help fund the podcast and create more episodes and help me on my journey to making this my full-time job. I got many, many plans on the way. Apart from that, folks, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're ready for the winter, for December, for the cold and the dark nights. That's where I am anyways. It might be different where you are. But right now, I think I'm going to go and eat some poutine. Poutine. Delicious Canadian food. Look it up. Bye for now.